Your request is granted.
Mr. Witness, before I turn to all the documents, let me start by asking you first some general questions. In answering an earlier question last week from Judge Lavergne, you confirmed that you have been sentenced to a prison sentence in the 80s, up until 4 years in prison. That is correct, isn't it?
Witness. I was arrested not in 1980, but it was 1984, and I was imprisoned for a period of 4 years.
When you were released in 1988, were there any conditions for that release, or was it an unconditional release?
Regarding my release in 1988, I was allowed to return home and to become a good citizen and not to oppose them.
Do you recall whether you gave any interviews to the investigators in the national case in the same manner as you have done to the investigators of the ECCC?
President, witness, please hold on. And International Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning to all of you. I'm not sure I understood the question well, because in the question a trial is mentioned. So I do not believe that the witness spoke about a trial and that he had been sentenced as such in 1984. So it's a question of the wording here that's maybe not correct. So it's not yet established that there was a trial, a judgment, and a sentence. Thank you.
If I understood the question correctly, it is if there was a pre-trial investigation, which basically links to the question if there was a trial before he was arrested, yes?
That was indeed my question. Mr. Witness, before you served that 4 years in prison, were you interviewed by investigators of the National Police?
I was not interviewed during my imprisonment.
And I will move on. Mr. Witness, you spoke to many people in relation to your work at S21. You spoke to investigators.
Counsel, can you speak into the microphone? It's very difficult to understand.
Yes, I will. As I said, Mr. Witness, you spoke to many investigators.
Sorry, is it just me who
I think it is just you.
Who can hardly hear it? No, I think...
No, it's always as it's... Can you hear it? I think it's yours.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. Witness, you spoke to many investigators. You spoke to people from an organization called DC Chem. You spoke to journalists. You spoke to a documentary maker, investigators of this court. Do you also remember speaking to American military persons?
This matter happened a long time ago, and I cannot recall that specific event.
Let me see if I can assist you a bit, Mr. Witness. Do you remember speaking to American intelligence officers working for, I presume, the Department of Defense in 2002 and in 2007?
No, I cannot recall that clearly.
ដូចជាភ្លេចអស់ហើយតាម
I do not remember it.
Mr. President, this is a document I will not be showing to the witness because he has never seen it before, I presume. I will be referring now to document E3/7845, which is a document originating from the American authorities, I presume from intelligence officers of the Department of Defense. It is an interview with this witness in August 2002. Mr. Witness, it seems that you spoke in August 2002 with American intelligence officers, and I would like to ask you a few questions about the document they produced containing your interview. On page 8, which is in Khmer 00742362, English 00276840, and French 00778-926. These American investigators, or however you like to call them, wrote down the following. Something that you said, and I quote, about...
Please hold on, counsel, and please provide the EN number once again. I do not get it clearly, and probably the duty counsel also do not have a full EN number so that he cannot assist his client.
Just to be sure, that document is not in the binder, Mr. President, because he doesn't recognize this document. It's only in English as well, the original. But the Khmer page is 007-42362. And in this report, Mr. Witness, these investigators write down the following, something you said, about 2 months before the People's Army of Vietnam forces captured Phnom Penh, all prisoners held in Tuol Sleng were moved to the west. When the PAVN forces arrived, there was a small staff remaining at the prison, including Suu Kyi. when the People's Army Forces of Vietnam reached Phnom Penh, Susti fled to Kampong Chnang province, where he stayed for about a month. He then made his way back to Co Kel commune. End of quote. Does this somehow refresh your memory, Mr. Witness? Is this something that you might have said to these American intelligence officers?
ចំពោះ
regarding interview with American personnel, I cannot recall any of that detail since I have provided interviews to many journalists, including some Americans. So I cannot recall every interview that I gave to those journalists.
I understand. That's no problem. But is it correct that prisoners who were detained in Tuol Sleng were moved to the west 2 months before the arrival of Vietnamese troops?
No, I cannot recall that I provided any statement regarding prisoners who were sent to the west. To my recollection, prisoners were not sent anywhere 2 months before the arrival of the Vietnamese.
Then let me move on to something else you might have told these American intelligence officers, and that is on page 6 of that document, Khmer ERN 0074230, English 00276838, and French 00778925. Under point 4, it says, and I quote again, there were about 60 to 70 prisoners in Tuol Sleng when Susti arrived at the prison. The prison was organized into 3 sections: interrogation, security, and logistics. I'm particularly interested in this number, 60 to 70 prisoners. Is that something that you might have told these American interviewers?
I cannot recall about the figure, and as I have stated through my various interviews, I don't recall that I ever mentioned about the remaining 60 or 70 prisoners.
And finally, in relation to this document, Mr. Witness, do you remember talking to these Americans about Pin, Comrade Pin? Do you remember talking to them about him?
I do not recall that, and frankly speaking, my memory at present does not serve me well, and I do not recall whether I mentioned any name as Pin through my various interviews. I don't think I came across this Pin through my work at the time.
Maybe I can assist you. Pin, one of the commanders of Division 703, that Pin, I mean.
did not have any relation with Pen. Pen was former commander of Division 703. He was in that position when I was in the battlefield. And in fact, the name is not Pen, but Pin. And later on, I did not have any contact at all with the division level, since it was very senior in terms of change of command.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Let me move on to another interview that you gave. That's an interview 3 years earlier, in 1999. Mr. President, I'll be referring to document E3/1568-10568. It is the witness's interview to the military court. More specifically, I'll be referring to Khmer page 00320756, English 003267773, French 003267776. First, a general question before I move to a particular question. Mr. Witness, do you remember being interviewed in 1999 by the military court?
I was questioned once by the military court.
Was that in the case against Duig?
I cannot recall that clearly.
In this document, you refer to a few people working in S21, and there's one or two names that I would like to ask you about. In this document, you talk about a person, and I hope I pronounce it well, Mr. President, Snung. Is that someone that you remember?
Sungun was a member of a guard company.
And how high in rank was he?
I cannot recall it clearly. What I can recall is that he was a member of a guard company. There were Sungun, Poj, Paul, who were in the former guard company before some members were arrested and replaced by new forces.
In this interview to the military court, you also speak about the special prison, and I will get back to that, but just to finish with this subject. In this document, on the next page, you say, the first and special prison was for placing the senior people and was outside and to the south. End of quote. Do you remember saying this to the military court?
Yes, I recall that.
Just to follow up on this, do you remember when the senior people or the more important prisoners were being detained in building A within the compound? Do you remember when that changed? When did the important prisoners go from special prison to building A? Is that something that you remember?
No, I cannot recall the exact period in that year. That when they were brought in from the outside prisons to the main prison, I did not have any authority to see them even when they were detained outside or after they were moved into the main compound.
These were my questions in relation to those interviews, Mr. Witness. Let me move on to my next subject. At one point in time, before 1975, you got wounded severely in battle, and then at one point in time, you became a medic. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
What were your tasks as a medic before 1975?
At that time, as a medic, I was attached to a platoon under, that is, the third platoon of 23rd Company under 112th Battalion. Soldiers who were wounded in the battlefield would send to me, and I would apply the bandage on those wounds before they were sent to the rear. So I was there with the soldiers at the front battlefield.
When you were working as a medic at the battlefield, were you ever in a position that you had to give blood to wounded comrades?
There were no medicines at the battlefield, not much medicine. Usually we had only the bandage to apply on the wounded combatants. We did not have the medicines or the tube, I mean the injection shot to be used.
But my question was about giving blood to seriously wounded comrades. Did you, as a medic, ever give blood to wounded soldiers? Or, alternatively, when you yourself were seriously wounded, did you receive blood?
At the time, no transfusion of blood for the wounded soldiers. As I said, no medicines at the time.
Now let me move a bit in time to 1976. Did you ever hear about a policy or attempts to make sure that soldiers who were wounded at the battlefield would receive blood from others in order to recuperate from their injuries?
On this particular issue, I do not know because it is beyond my duties. I did not concentrate on other tasks beside the ones that I was assigned to do.
I understand, Mr. Witness, but nevertheless, let me read something to you from a document that you don't know, but which might describe a policy in relation to blood donation. Mr. President, I'm referring to document E3/226. These are minutes of a meeting on health and social affairs, presumably together with members of the Standing Committee. More particularly, I'll be referring to Khmer ERN 000-17158, English 001-83372, and French 00296-166. I'll be reading an excerpt from this document to you now, Mr. Witness. C. Concrete issues of some ministries. First, issue of blood donation. We could expand it. We collected the general public force to get more blood to save the lives of our fighters at borders. If the issue could not be solved at bases, it should be solved at Phnom Penh. We collected forces from offices, military, industries, and so on. There were more than 100,000 people living in Phnom Penh. We were able to collect blood from 5,000 people monthly. In the long run, we could collect even more blood because we would have enough food supply. The procedures were to select our men and women fighters in offices and military units. This was not posing any problem to us. It was not a significant sacrifice. End of quote. Mr. Witness, this excerpt seems to describe an attempt to collect blood from people everywhere in the country and also Phnom Penh. The document is from June 76. Is this something that you recall while you were at S21?
As I indicated already, I did not pay attention on the circulars or any documents issued at the time. I was only paying attention to my abundant tasks. I was afraid that I would be arrested. As I said, I only focused on what I was assigned to do.
I understand, but let me ask it differently. Do you remember that S21 staff or your former colleagues from Division 703 were ever asked to donate blood for those who were wounded at the battlefield?
To the best of my knowledge, I was stationed inside the compound, and in relation to blood donation, I have no idea about that.
Now let me go to my next subject, Mr. Witness, and that is about all kinds of issues of command structures and hierarchy within the regiment and within the division. Let me start by reading something that you yourself said in your testimony before the trial chamber in case 1 at the 28th of July 2009, that is now known as document E3/7466. At around 9:58 in the morning, you said the following: I can presume that at S21 I was doing the job of a soldier or military unit because the general staff was fully in charge of S21. End of quote. Is that something you said, Mr. Witness? Do you remember saying this before the judges in 2009?
I told the court at the time that S21 was under the management of a general staff.
And is it correct that between the day of liberation in April 75 and the very last day, January 79, you yourself were always a soldier, a military?
From 1975 up to when I was transferred to S21, I had been a soldier.
I understand, but were you also a soldier or a military person in 1977, in 1978, and the first week of 1979?
I cannot tell you if I was still a soldier at the time. I was a staff member of S21, and I did not know at the time whether I was part of a soldier or my status was transferred to be a staff member of that office.
Let me get back to that a bit later, Mr. Witness. Let me first show you a document. Mr. President, that is a document that is in the binder. It's the first document that I would like to show. It is document E3/8365. Maybe the document can come on the screen. Meanwhile, I see the duty counsel looking up that document, 8365.
ជំរាបអនុញ្ញាតឲ្យ
The request is granted, so the document can be projected on the screen.
Mr. Witness, this is not a document that you can recognize, I presume. It is a document containing a list of names, names of people that joined the first General Staff study session on the 20th October 1976. Now, the first name in that document is Duik, if I'm correct. The second name is Hor. The third name is Hui. And the fourth name is Snoon. Is that the same person that you referred to earlier in your testimony before the military court?
Nguyen, as I told the military court, was a member of a company or 100-member unit in the GAD unit.
The last person on that list, Meng, is that the Meng that you have been referring to many times last week? The chief of the interrogation unit?
Meng was not the chief of the interrogation unit. He was the chief of the office in charge of interrogation section, and I would report to him.
I will get back to that, Meng, a bit later, but let me first finish this document, Mr. Witness. There are some other names on this document: Paul, Run, Tang, Tan, Sok, and Kat. Can you tell us who these people were?
Ho Beng, were recognized by me. Sok Tan, or Kat rather. I do not know about the two individuals, Sok and Kat, and Ho and another individual, as I said, were part of the company.
Now let me, with these names in the back of your mind, direct you to the next document, Mr. Witness. That is document E3/1585. That's a longer document, but I'll be referring specifically to Khmer page 00095532 and English 00897665. Specifically, Mr. President, I'll be referring to numbers 284 and subsequently. It's a list of attendance of the first General Staff meeting. Maybe the document can be shown on the screen.
President, the request is granted.
Mr. Witness, the names that you see of Comrade Duik, Hor, Hui, are the same names that you saw on the previous document. And they are all attending this General Staff meeting. But they're all listed as participants of Office 62. So during this meeting, Duik and Hor and Hui are listed as representatives of Office 62. What is Office 62?
I did not hear you, Counsel. I did not know the question you put to me. President, Court Officer, please check the headset of the witness.
And meanwhile, Mr. President, the French ERN is 006116552.
President, Counsel Koppe, please repeat the French EON.
006116552. Mr. Witness, my question was, do you know what Office 62 was?
I told the court already that I did not know the people up the line.
That was not my question. Mr. Witness, the names that you see listed as of number 284 are the same names that you just saw before. Duik, Hor, Hui, etc. They were working with you at Independent Regiment 21 in the broader sense. But in this list of participants, they were listed as members of Office 62. My question is, do you know why Duik and Hor and others were listed as working for Office 62?
As I told you already, I had a very low rank and position, and I did not know what was going on at the upper level. I was working inside the prison compound.
And I understand. If I tell you that Office 62 is the code number for the Office of the General Staff, does that ring a bell?
It does not ring a bell, and I do not know if General Staff number was 62. I was not allowed to know in detail of the tasks at the upper level. President Judge Lavange, you can now have the floor.
Oui, Maître Copé, pour les...
Counsel Kope, for purposes of the transcript, can you tell us what document you are relying on when you make this assertion?
That was document E3/1585. As I said before, it's a statistical list of participants of the first General Staff training on the 20th of October 1976. And as of participant 284, Duik and others are listed as members of Office 62.
I think the question was on where you equate Office 62 with General Staff. Is this document too? Or the basis for this?
There are many references, I know, but I don't have them by hand now. But I will be, after the break, let you know that on many occasions Duik said Office 62 is a General Staff unit. But I will get back to that. Mr. Witness, let me take you to the next document. That is document E3/1136. Khmer ERN 00160081, French 00548764, in English 00543743. This is a rice consumption plan for all divisions and regiments, independent regiments. Maybe, Mr. President, I could have that document on the screen as well.
President, yes, please.
Mr. Witness, this is also a document that you don't know, but it lists the various divisions, Division 164, Division 170, also Division 703, led by Comrade Pin, but also lists in English at number 11, Office 21, Chairperson Comrade Sem. Who is Comrade Sem?
I do not know Comrade Sam at S21.
Have you ever heard whether Sem is another name for Commander Nut?
there was an individual named Nad, the commander of 703.
Now you yourself worked at Division 12, and then Division 12 became Division 703. Do you know whether Division 703 in early January 1976 had about 6,128 combatants?
I was low in rank, so I did not know the actual figure of the soldiers in a particular division. The battalion, or perhaps was aware of the figure of the soldiers. I mean the battalion 112.
Let me turn to Regiment 21 or Office 21. In January, early January 76, there were about 2,048 soldiers or combatants working for Office 21. You
Reference, Council.
Same document, under 11, actual amount 2,048. Mr. Witness, according to your revolutionary biography, you went to Regiment 21 in December 75. This is a document on 1 month later. Can you roughly indicate where the most or the majority of those 2,000 combatants were working or were stationed?
As I repeatedly said, I did not know the number of workers in Office 21. I told the court already that there were 18 groups altogether.
I understand.
President, you may proceed now, Judge Lavenia.
Thank you, Mr. President. A point of clarification. I note that regarding this line, there are 3 figures in reality. There is a figure concerning apparently a real or quantity, a reserve quantity, and a total figure. So when we speak about the total staff, I do not know what Council Koppe is referring to. Are you referring to the actual amount, or are you referring to the last column, which is the total amount?
Et je précise que l'effectif.
And I'd like to specify here that the total amount is not 2,048, but of 3,048, because the reserve amount is 3,000.
As I interpret the document, is that in January 76, the actual amount of forces within Regiment 21 were 2,048, but it is a rice consumption plan. So it is anticipated that presumably another 1,000 members will join 21 in that year, bringing the total amount of people within Regiment 21 who had to be fed up till 3,048. So that's my interpretation. So I'm taking the actual number of S21 combatants in January 76. Let me rephrase my question, Mr. Witness. Assuming your testimony that at total slang where you worked as of March, April 76. There were about 400, 500 cadres working. Do you know, if that is the case, where the other 1,521 regiment cadres were working?
As for the figure of personnel at Office 21, I did not have a full grasp. I only knew the exact figure of those in the guard unit. As for those in the interrogation unit, only May was well aware of the figure. I personally only knew about the 18 groups and people who were in those groups.
And to complete the picture, I will not show that document to the witness, Mr. President, and in response to the question of Judge Lavergne, document E3/849 is another statistic of the various divisions. And although the document is in the binder, by the way, but here it says that Centre or Office S21, not including the elements, presumably meaning prisoners, in 1977 counted 2,328 members or combatants. Mr. Witness, let me go back to your work as a military in Division 12 before it became Division 703. Do you recall how Division 12 how did it consist? Of how many brigades was Division 12 built of? Do you remember?
As I have just stated, I did not know well about the structure of Division 12. And the list you showed to me that belongs to Division 12. I was up to the battalion level and I could not have a full understanding of the full structure of Division 12 or any brigades under its subordination. I was the one who took charge of list at Battalion 112, and I only knew up to that level and not beyond that, although we were part of the Division 12. And my focus was solely on the list that I was tasked to take charge of in Battalion 112.
Well, when you were interviewed by the prosecution in 2006, you seem to be a bit more. You seem to know a bit more about the structure of Division 12. Mr. President, I'm referring to document E3/9140. This is an interview which has a different than usual layout. It's English and Khmer in the same page, so I only need to refer to the English ERN, because the Khmer is right below it. ERN 00181059. That is one of the answers of this witness from questions of the prosecution. Mr. Witness, you said that Division 12 consisted of 4 brigades. Brigade 207, Brigade 208, a women's brigade and an artillery brigade. Do you recall saying this?
Could you please repeat your question? I do not fully get it.
Before Division 12 became Division 703, Division 12 consisted of 4 brigades. Brigade 207, 208, a women's brigade, and an artillery brigade. Do you recall saying this to the prosecution in your interview in 2006?
I cannot recall that clearly since it happened many years ago and my memory does not serve me well. And allow me to say that through my understanding, there were no brigades under that division. There were only regiments and battalions, and I cannot recall those exact regiments or battalions. So, below division, there were regiments and battalions, and there was no brigade underneath.
Maybe that's a translation issue, Mr. Witness. But let me ask you something you said in that same interview 2 pages further. Again, E3/9140, ERN, English and Khmer 001-81061. There you said that actually the commander of Division 12 was Hui. Is that correct? Was Hui the commander of Division 12?
No. Hui was commander of Battalion 112, and he was not a divisional commander.
Then who was the divisional commander of Division 12?
It was Tanat who was the commander of Division 12. Thank you, Defense Counsel. It is now appropriate for our short break. We take a break now and resume at 10:30. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for witnesses and civil parties, and invite him as well as his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 10:30.